Thanks for having me. I'm Jamie Beckland, digital and social media strategist at Janrain. And Janrain is a user management platform for the social web. We don't need to hang out there too much. So we offer a couple of different social products. One is a social login product called Janrain Engage. And what that does is it allows users to use an existing identity that they have, a social identity. So Facebook, Twitter, Google, Yahoo, et cetera, we support over 20 identity providers, and use that identity that they already have to log into any brand website or third-party website. So what that does is it provides a much easier path for the user to go through. Of course, what comes back with that is much more than just the authentication that the user is successfully logged in and is who they say they are, but there's also a data payload that comes back with that. So we have another product called Janrain Capture, which stores and manages all that social profile data. It's stuff that's really hard for a traditional database to store or figure out how to be able to utilize because it's nested. You don't know what's going to come back. You don't know if this person has 5 friends or 500 friends. So there's a lot of complications around that. And then, of course, we help people figure out what to do with all that data. So how do you personalize and make more relevant content, marketing messages? How do you integrate it to segment email campaigns? How do you target and segment your audience more effectively? And then the third product that we have is Janrain Federate, which is a single sign-on product, which allows a user to move from site to site in an authenticated manner. So that's what we do.
So if I go to a site, I don't want to log in, create a password, do all that. I can just use my Facebook. I push the button. It says, do you want to accept this? And it can pull whatever data. I push accept, and then Janrain can then find out what are my interests, who are my different friends, how can they match data to serve me up things that are more pertinent.
Exactly, yeah. So we pull back a number of different data fields on the user's identity. So that can include things like the social graph, who you're friends with, gender, relationship, status, interests, the bands you like, that sort of thing. And all of that can come back and then be used in a number of different ways to help personalize the experience and marketing messaging for a customer. So when I think about being fast, really where I net out is actually being one step ahead of the customer. So when I think about what is the Z-mod or whatever, it's not when they're trying to decide what they're going to buy, it's the step before that, right? So it's when they first learn that your product exists, or maybe your company exists, or maybe your whole brand category exists, or maybe the whole concept around what you guys do exists. So I mean, you're pushing way up in the funnel in terms of, it's even before consideration, it's even before awareness. They're not even aware that it exists. So where does that happen? It can happen in search, and I'll hold that one to the side for a second. And it can also happen in social, and that's like sort of the social discovery, the friend recommending, the stuff that just happens to fall into your news feed, or you hit Twitter at the right time, and all of a sudden you're down a rabbit hole learning about something that you never even knew about. So when I think about being fast, I think about being there before the customer even knows that you exist. That's how fast you have to be. So how do you make that happen? So one thing that I can recommend is this whole notion of social sharing, which is a functionality that we support, but there's a lot of ways to do social sharing. So what we do is, like on the brand website, if you can actually publish a share out to your Facebook wall, your Twitter wall, and in other locations too. So basically helping users or customers that are already brand advocates or fans start to talk about that and create that zero moment of truth for somebody new. The other way I think about it is in terms of the data side of how are you using all this information that you know about these customers to go out and find other customers like them. So if I can correlate and say and validate market research or create market research from the data I'm collecting about customers to know that this is the kind of person who's going to like my product. And sometimes it's, there's the demographic attributes that we're all pretty familiar with from a market research standpoint, age, gender, and things like that. But sometimes it's other things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like, oh, for some reason, my product is really popular amongst deadheads or amongst people that are single or people that are engaged. What is that about? That gives you an opportunity to start to uncover where that market is and then be able to be there when somebody gets engaged or when somebody first goes to their first concert or something like that. So being there in that moment means that you have to understand what's going to lead that person into that moment.